Welcome to the ACC Panic Room alongside Lauren Brownlow. I'm Joe Ovies. Dave Doeren finally did it. Finally got over on Dabo. It was an adventure.
Oh my God.
I didn't think it was actually going to happen.
No.
But it happened, and that's ultimately all that matters. That's all anybody will remember. Dave Doeren finally got over on old Dabo.
I honestly, when he missed that kick, because he's lining up for the 39-yarder, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I know he missed the 50-yarder, but he's a good kicker. That's not going to happen. No.
Mm-hmm.
And when he did it again, I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. You could not make this up. If you made it up, someone would have been like, that's not realistic.
I had a get or done tweet ready to go for the win. And I was actually sitting here thinking to myself, if you had a shaky kicker, why were you playing for the field goal? You probably should have just.
The thing is, they don't have a shaky kicker.
Well, he was shaky today. That's the thing.
But he was only kicking from 50 plus mostly. So, that's a little more of a kick you should make as an NFL kicker compared to college. It's dicey, right?
I know what you're saying. I was just going for the whole vibe of the game.
I know.
It just didn't really make a lot of sense. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. NC State, all that matters ultimately is the result. And this result, more than any other opportunity against Clemson, was the most pressure-packed for Dave Doeren. Because everybody who watches Clemson, everybody who covers Clemson, saw this loss coming from a mile away. The issue was, could State actually do the thing?
Right.
And we don't have to, if you're an NC State fan watching this Panic Room, we really don't have to spend that much time explaining why so many NC State fans and so many of us who've watched so much triangle football sat there and went, yeah, no, we get why Clemson people are like, man, the way things are going right now, forget it. They're going to lose this game on the road. Their offense can't get going. All the things, all the injuries that happened at Clemson today, especially on the defensive end, all these things were lining up for Clemson fans and Clemson media to be like, yeah, this was going to happen. This was inevitable. But State fans were waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Well,
it didn't.
And that's the thing, too. It is somewhat of a larger thing with Clemson, too, though, isn't it? Because, how often have we seen them on the ropes in the past and they've managed to sort of salvage, have a good performance out of nowhere.
Sure.
And when they had that touchdown drive, I think initially people were like, okay, late in the game, it's like, okay, they've got it figured out again now. They'll be fine. That wasn't the case. And that's not to discredit State's. This isn't to discredit State's defense, which played great.
It did.
But this is not those teams. And I think that became clearer and clearer as the game went on.
And that's what I get back to, the pressure part of this. When Pitt went super weapon, that was like a shock, right? What was it? Syracuse. Again, another one of those okay, how, right? Because those were different Clemson teams. This one was no, you should. If you're not going to beat this Clemson team, when are you ever going to do it, Dave?
And by the way,
I think that's why Dave Doeren, real quick, that's why Dave Doeren was so, relieved in the post game. He was happy, and he said, the curse is over, all this other stuff. Because, man, if you couldn't beat that team, wow.
Well, it's especially true, I think, with the way the game was playing out. It was probably true going in, but you can kind of say, okay, whatever. They still have talent. They'll probably start getting it together. The defense is still really good. There were still any number of reasons. But then when Skalski gets hurt and then Breesy gets hurt, and you're just sitting here okay, now their best defensive players are out. They literally can't get a first down. Yeah. This is, if you cannot beat this team at this point with what they've been unable to do offensively, it did start to feel that way. It's you've got to do it now or never.
And then when you look at the stat sheet, time of possession, everything else, like you said about NC State's defense, it was excellent against NC State did an excellent job of not allowing Clemson to find their offense like some people assumed would happen today. And it's going to expose a lot of a lot of bigger issues that will dominate the national conversation in college football as to what's wrong with Clemson. Clemson's national title hopes are dashed. They're not going to be making the college football playoff with that loss. You could justify the Georgia loss. You can't justify this one. But despite the fact that State dominated Clemson on the stat sheet, and if you watch the game, you could tell that State was clearly better than Clemson, there were so many missed opportunities. What, 2 dropped passes in the end zone? Obviously, the missed field goals that we talked about, and it was just ultimately waiting. Like, and then the other thing too is there was a moment in the game where it was when Will Shipley scores the touchdown and they tie things up. And I'll admit, like, my immediate thought was that this is where NC State is going to lose the game,
and that's
like,
where you kind of thought too. Again,
we had like a surrender wolf.
Oh,
we had the surrender wolf with. I mean, okay, if you don't know Will Shipley, I mean, his entire family went to NC State, and this guy decides to go be the running back at Clemson, and it's at Carter Finley Stadium. You're like, oh, okay, here it is. It had to be Will Shipley to potentially change the momentum of the game, but obviously State pulled it out.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know too. It was one of those things where, like I said, we've just watched Clemson do this over the years, where they've messed around for a while or played terrible, and then kind of turned it on, and you go, okay, well, maybe that's what they're starting to do, but that's not what happened. And State was able to do what it needed to do, and they responded well. And I mean, I still can't believe they deleted the tweet of Doeren, because I need to know why they deleted it. We need to get in touch with our people at State and be like, why did you delete this? Because it's really good.
It's
I'm not kidding you. I screamed when I saw it. I screamed.
And for whatever reason, they decided to take it off. I don't know why. But Chris and a few other NC State fans managed to screen grab this before they decided
Look at this.
It's the Tiger King. They photoshopped Smiling Dave on the Tiger King with his tiger and everything else. This is fantastic social media.
Good.
Why did you delete this? Just drink it in. Let it flourish. Let it happen.
To be fair, I think they're a little afraid of the hubris of it all, which I get to a degree.
Why?
I know it's not like, what is that going to make Dabo want to beat you more next year? Like, come on.
I mean, here's the other thing. Dabo's got bigger fish to fry right now.
Yeah, he doesn't care that much about NC State's social media. Clemson fans might, but that's not. Yeah.
Well, and I guess that's maybe what NC State would be worried about, is that there is a long simmering problem with Clemson fans with NC State for a variety of reasons, and Dave Doeren specifically for some comments in the past. But this is one, if you can't have a good sense of humor about this kind of stuff, then what are we even doing here, right? That's the whole point. Like Dave Doeren said in the postgame, it's what college football is all about. There's a little fun and shenanigans. Let them storm the field. Let them hang out at the bell tower and everything else. And that's why I wasn't all that, bothered by the fact that Dave Doeren said in the postgame that the curse is over, NC State fans.
No.
The curse is over, NC State fans. You know what? In the moment, look, what have we talked about, Lauren?
Okay,
what have we talked about with NC State and Dave Doeren? People want that football game that leaves you needing a cigarette after the fact. And if he got a little caught up in that love,
it puts me fit the bill.
He kind of got caught up in that love buzz,
I feel like I need one after that, and I didn't even. I didn't.
Right. So Dave got a little caught up and using a little bit of a love buzz. He's like, the curse is over, man. It's all good.
So my only whatever about it, because I don't think it's a bad thing for him to say, but the last time a State coach said something along those lines, I don't feel like it ended well for him. And it was also a State coach that I like a lot, in Kevin Keats. And it was not great.
Yeah, Kevin Keats said they stuffed the stuff, and
I loved that. And I get it. Yeah. But then it's just also, it just puts you in a tough spot if things start to go poorly, you know? And things go poorly for everyone to some degree. And then all of a sudden it becomes what? You said we stuffed the stuff. You tempted fate. I mean, I don't know.
It's fine. It's fine. It's okay. Let Dave savor the win, right? Let him savor the win.
Yes, absolutely.
I feel like we're going to have to devote an entire other panic room to other matters in the ACC. But we'll close on this specific to NC State. And it gets back to something that we talked about after the Mississippi State loss. There were two conversations. There was here's another missed opportunity. But it was at a conference, and that's not to say that you can't go knock off a very vulnerable Clemson team. And if you knock off a vulnerable Clemson team, who's to say what happens next in the Atlantic, right? And a lot of people have pointed this out, and we'll do the same. It looks like we might be in a year where coastal chaos has given way to Atlantic anarchy.
Wow, it's almost like what I said is that the Atlantic beyond Clemson is actually also the coastal.
Yeah, it is. It is. You've always been on that one. And right now, Wake Forest is undefeated. Boston College is surprised without Phil Dracovic. in not being in the lineup. Their quarterback, who I thought was the difference maker, but they've moved to they're 4-0 now.
Their coach is excellent. He's going to get hired by somebody.
Florida State's terrible, clearly. And
so North Carolina finally going to beat them this year? Matt going to get his first win over
we'll see. But I feel like there's like an entire conversation to be had about the rest of the Atlantic Division and really the rest of the ACC as North Carolina's playing as the recording of this Panic Room. But with Clemson's loss, it absolutely opens the door for somebody to step in the Atlantic. And this is where NC State can get that done. I'm not confident that they can get over what has been a very solid Wake Forest squad, but that's later on in the year. We'll see how NC State builds up to that game. That's a much later game.
Yeah, Wake has looked great. I think Wake gets ranked this week, although who knows? It would be the most Wake thing ever if like State ended up getting more top 25 votes with a loss to Mississippi State than like Wake does for being 4-0 and like trouncing most of who they've played.
Are you gonna rank Clemson?
See, somebody asked me this. Yeah, I'm gonna rank. I think. Okay. I don't like to say that until I see what else is going on. That's the thing. Like, it's easy for me to say that now, but then if I look at like who else has won or lost or whatever, and it becomes like, oh, I don't have room for them, then that's fine. But I mean, we'll see. Based on
what this Clemson team has done and how they look, their offense is terrible.
Like real bad, yeah. And so, but the defense is so good.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know yet. I don't know.
Just food for thought. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the ACC Panic Room. We'll talk about the rest of the ACC later.